Hi, welcome to Sewing with Sandy. Today we're going to explore a DIY wool cape that has almost zero sewing. It's perfect for that transition between spring and fall when you don't really need a heavy winter coat, but you need a little something to keep you warm. I've actually taken this on a plane and I use it as a blanket. It's perfect if you have an overnight flight. So this is all one piece of fabric. And the only sewing that I did on this was to sew on the binding around the edge, and I used fold over elastic for this. But you can see a picture of it on. It's super simple. You can make them in all kinds of fabrics. I like the wool, that's what I was going for. And this wool, one of the things you want to keep in mind is that it looks great from both sides. So the one thing about this fabric is that it has this really great selvage, and I left that on the lower edge pieces, so I didn't have to finish them. So I only finished the arm side pieces here that come out this way, and then around the neck edge. And I'm going to show you how to work the fabric and manipulate it. But super cute patterns, super easy to make. They make great gifts. This was a fairly expensive piece of wool. I think I probably paid $50 or $60 a yard for this in a New York fashion house. And I've had this for, 4 or 5 years, and I wear it a lot. It just looks great. It gets better with age, and you know, it's just kind of a go-to cape that's super simple. So let's get started. So from salvage to salvage on this piece of wool that I bought, it is 62 inches. So this is half of it. So this is 31, so it's 62 inches wide. The fabric is 62 inches wide because this is the salvage where this really nice frayed edges, which I just left. So this is the bottom front and the bottom back of my cape piece. And one of the things you want to measure is you want to measure where you want it to start in the front, run up over your shoulder, and where you want it to end in the back. That needs to be balanced. And then the length from your fingertips all the way across your shoulders down to your other fingertips. And that will depend on how you organize or orientate your piece of fabric. If from fingertip to fingertip it's 62 inches or 64 inches, then you can use the width of the fabric and then just make the length whatever you want. In my case, I went with the length across my shoulders because 62 inches worked up and over for me, and I'm short. So if you're tall, you'll probably have to go the other way. And then I purchased 1 3/4 yards of fabric because that's what my dimensions called for. So this is 1 3/4 yards by 62 inches. That's my rectangle. And then the first thing you want to do is find the shoulders. So you want the salvage, you want it to be salvage to salvage. Now consider this one is cut already. But you want to take your fabric. You can see there's actually a lot of fabric here. Makes a great blanket. So you want to match up your salvage edge of your fabric and then determine where the shoulder is going to be, right? Sorry, I had that flipped around. Okay, so this is what my cape looks like now, finished. But I folded it salvage to salvage, so I had my salvage edges meeting and made it nice and smooth and folded it along this line. So this is my shoulder line up here. And I put a few pins in here just so I would know where my shoulder line was, because what I'm going to do is cut this and cut a little neck edge. And you can see that neck edge isn't that big, right? And it fits perfectly, or it doesn't have to be huge. And you can get some style here. I liked this kind of curve, gentle curve on it. You could make it square if you wanted to, but this is softer, and if you do make it square, it might have a tendency to fall over, and that would be okay too. If that's the look that you're going for, you would have a more traditional kind of scoop neckline. So after you determine where your shoulder seam is, then you're gonna fold it the other way. So I have my pins, so I would pin this section of my shoulder seam so I know that that's where I'm gonna stop cutting because I don't wanna cut all the way through. And then I would fold it the other way. Right, so now I've reversed the fold on my rectangle, and my salvages are here at this end and here at this end down here. And this would be where my pins are along this line here. This is my shoulder line. And I don't want to cut too far past my shoulder line. So if this is my shoulder line, I don't want to cut too far past my shoulder line. I don't want to cut into the back of the garment. I want it to be balanced. So I cut up the front, and then I cut just a very delicate curve on this. Let me fold it better. Just a little delicate curve. I went out and then in. Cut less, you know, don't cut too much. Cut a little tiny bit, try it on, see how it goes. Then if it's not quite the way you want it, cut it some more. Or take a piece of muslin and make it about this big, and then just cut that neck hole until you get it, and keep trying it on until you get it the way you like it. But it's very simple. And if you look at this neck edge, there isn't a lot of fancy things going on here. All right, this is my shoulder seam. This falls on my shoulder. This is a very small scoop that goes around the edge. Then the next thing you have to do, or the only other thing you have to do, is finish the edges. Now on this one, I left the front and back hems as the salvage, so I didn't have to finish those, so that makes so much less that I actually have to finish, right? And then I used fold over elastic to finish the edges, which is a piece of elastic that folds in half, and then you just sew it through the machine. Takes a little practice to get that done. I'll show you what it looks like. I have some right here. This is a much larger fold. This is very small. This is a much larger fold over elastic, but you can see there's a ridge in the middle, and you literally just fold it along that ridge and put it on your fabric. It's a little tricky because you need to make sure that your fabric gets all the way into the ridge, and you fold it over, and when you stitch it, you catch the front and the back on your machine. So it does take a little practice, but it's such a great finish. Now you could use bias binding. You could use the same fabric bias binding or contrast. You know, this I picked up the blue-gray in this tweed, this plaid, to use as the binding on this. You could make your own binding. Please don't buy the binding from the store. The stuff is junk. It's stiff. See how soft this is? I mean, this wool, this is a beautiful wool, and this fold over elastic just folds so nicely with it. You don't have, if you used a bias binding, it would be stiff, and this would be sticking out in all kinds of weird angles. You would not be happy with it. This looks much more high-end retail as opposed to, you know, Target. Not that there's anything wrong with Target, but I don't want to buy my clothes at Target. So I don't want them to look like I bought my clothes at Target. So you could use more of the salvage. If you had extra salvage, you could apply that. Use the bias binding. You could use the fold over elastic, obviously. And there are several other ways. You could fold it. You could fold the edge and stitch it. The only problem with that is that you're going to see the seam from the other side. And you could line it. That would involve bagging the whole thing, but also you would end up with 2 layers and it would be shifting around. That would cause much more of a nightmare than you want. We want this to be simple and quick. And really, it's a blanket. It's just a blanket that has a hole opening for your neck. Since I used the salvage here on the front and the bottom, on the sides I needed to also add my fold over elastic, but that's it. It's pretty simple. You can do these up in no time, and you know what? They make really great Christmas gifts. There's lots of different fabric options that you can use, and I just want you to consider a couple that just stuff that I have in my stash here. So here are a couple of items from my stash that would look great as a cape. This is just a felted wool. It was in the junk bin at Joann's, you know, where you get the discounted fabric, and I bought it because I liked it and the price was right. But it's just a felted wool. It looks great on either side. And again, this salvage isn't that super pretty, but it would be fine for this. You could definitely leave that on the edge and not run into any issues. If you were doing it If you wanted to do something for a child, how fun would this be? My granddaughter would love a cape made out of this, right? It's heavy, it's warm. You could get a lighter weight fur, but a faux fur, you don't have to spend a lot of money. It's super cute, and for a little girl, what a great little present or a little something to wear with her Christmas outfit or Easter outfit or whatever. And if you wanted to go really high end, this is a very expensive Chanel-esque fabric that I picked up in London a few years ago, and I haven't cut into it yet because it was really expensive, and I want to make a jacket out of it. But it would also make a great cape, and it's much lighter weight. So this would be a very business-like Chanel style. And again, it has this really nice edge on it, and there's a little bit of a gold fleck in there, so you could use some gold trim around the edge. I mean, you could really make this look like super special. So that is my wool cape story, and I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful cape, because I've taught this class many, many times, and everyone that owns one wears it all the time. So until next time, happy sewing. Bye.